Hey guys, welcome to the last episode of Project Esports for January 2019. Today it is just going to be me and James. Dylan is out working his full-time real job, so it's going to be me and James holding down the fort tonight. But we have a variety of topics to talk about, and we have a new staple esport that will be joining the show each and every week because I have a feeling it is going to be the next level, next tier one esport. Don't you agree, James?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I can't wait for this to be as common as Overwatch and League of Legends on this show.
I think it's only a matter of time, right?
I think you're right. Honestly.
But before we get into any of that, we don't really have too much housekeeping this week. But we do have to talk about the LCS. I don't think either one of us are feeling great after this weekend. LEC, I'm feeling really good about.
I know you're feeling good with the LEC. I'm not. But yeah, no, it's man, it has been a rough week for my teams. I gotta tell you, it's been a rough go.
Yeah. So for any of you that are not League of Legends fans, the North American LCS started back up this weekend.
Cowboy, what it's actually called now?
The LCS.
Just the LCS.
Oh yeah, that's true because they removed the EU.
Or Legendary League of Legends League, as Rivington Bisbing.
There's as many L's as possible in it. But so that started back up this weekend. Just kind of the kickoff. It's kind of the same what we talked about for last week for the LEC when that kicked off. We'll talk about the graphics and branding a little bit, kind of what we took away from the weekend and how we have that. And maybe we get a prediction coming out of that. You never know.
Oh, okay.
But what do you think about the first couple of games? I mean, taking CLG and 100 Thieves away, like opening weekend, LCS is back. We're back in the full swings of League of Legends esports. How are you feeling right now?
I mean, I think so, and we're not discussing graphics right now. We're not discussing graphics production or anything.
We'll get into that. That kind of goes into it. How are you feeling about it overall?
You know what? I'm really liking the feel of the LCS. I'm liking like the power across the teams and stuff like that. I feel like even teams that we did see have a kind of a lackluster performance. So the potential, I don't think we're gonna have a big season of like, oh, this team is definitely in last place and this team is definitely in first place. You know what I mean? I think we're gonna have a bit more of a power struggle, which feels really nice. I like that. I like variety. I like, the chance of something going awry. Yeah, exactly, right?
No, yeah, I'm feeling the same way too. I mean, the outcome of week one is not what I expected, even the slimmest, in terms of some of the rankings and where people are and how people played and players that did well and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was not the opposite, but a lot of things were very different, and that's what I love. I mean, we're trying not to talk too much about scores. We'll talk about that a little bit on. But despite the colors being the same old boring kind of colors, I like this branding so much better. The layout so much better. The overlay look cleaner. It felt more traditional. Not much changed.
We gotta talk about the color combinations for some of these teams though, because I believe it was day one of the games where we had FlyQuest against Golden Guardians.
Yeah.
And it was and the loading screen was just yellow. It was just yellow, and it was like bright neon in your face, which usually I appreciate, but it was just that tint that I couldn't handle, and I was just like, oh my god, this is too much.
But I like that they're changing it up based on who was playing. Like, that's something more than just the generic two colors for the LEC. I don't know. I like the simplicity. It seemed more simple. I mean, they didn't really change anything from last year, but I'm more happy for that. I didn't watch any of the LEC this weekend. Did they change anything on their layout?
No, the layout was pretty much generically the same. It wasn't anything too crazy. I'm gonna pause for a second real here for any of our people who are gonna listen to this later on in the podcast, just like pre-recorded. Matcom, one of the former CLG heads, is in our chat right now, and I'm fanboying real hard right now. Oh. Dude's been around for a hot minute, and yeah, man. Yeah, it's a minute for me to take it. I gotta admit, Macom, thanks for stopping by, man. I really appreciate it as a longtime CLG fan. I don't know how you feel about them these days, but I'm sticking through them with thick and thin. But yeah, no. So I think graphically overall, the LCS kind of did a better job. I think they presented a better show. I think everything looked really cleaner. They still had to like force the Baron power play down your throat and all that good stuff. Because I'm pretty sure that's a partnership with both of them, isn't it? The Shell was with everybody.
I didn't see any shell power plays though for the LCS.
I might be getting. I'm getting kind of like the I think you're right. I think it is only. I might be getting like because I watched 4 days of games straight.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh
like,
no, I did too. I watched both of them too. So that's kind of why I've been taking a second here and pausing. I'm like, right, like I'm just double checking everything.
I know, right?
Trying to be somewhat logical, but
Yeah, I know. It's kind of hard. I think it is only the EU LCS that still does the Baron power play. So, I don't know, man. I really like it. I think where I really do like the EU talent, I think NA kind of puts on a better show as casters.
It's the talent, and I think the games have been. Some of these games have been so much fun to watch. I mean, I guess LEC. I feel like there's been a couple blowouts in LCS, but I don't know. NA just seemed more entertaining to me. Maybe because I know more of the players.
Yeah. No, there wasn't like for me there wasn't a ton of unknowns coming into the EU LC or the LEC. God, it's gonna be a reoccurring thing for a little while. So I think it's gonna be a little while before we get to names names like Humanoid and Abaddage and Nemesis and like a lot of mid laners. But like these are like the new talent, right? So those are kind of the big ones. But for the LCS, we kind of seen like just a shuffling of the names. Yeah. Not a ton of new people. We saw Asta, who really showed up for Optic. He did great. It's a real shame that Optic Academy beat Counterlogic Gaming, but I mean it happens. But like I mean, this is what you want to see though. Like I hate to say it, but this is what you want to see. You want to see this new talent making a name for themselves, showing up and really like putting on a show. And that's what like guys like Asta did. Like he played really, really well. Broken Blade had a really good couple games. He absolutely dismantled Huni, and it's good to see people that are from like these smaller regions or that are up and comers that are putting on a show, that are putting on a performance that keeps you entertained. Otherwise, we're going to see the same rotation of like X amount of players, and it's just going to get old, right? So I'm happy that we're getting this variety, and we're getting good variety.
Yeah. And I guess kind of moving on, obviously I love to see FlyQuest do so well. I mean, last season, my prediction, of course, they're going to win Spring Split. Well, now they look like they're a natural contender there. So I love seeing that, even though I wouldn't say I've given up on them. They're now my secondary team, which my number one team, the 100 Thieves, did not do well this weekend. I mean, I'm not worried about them in the long run. I think there's still some issues, kind of everyone getting back together. They had some changes on the roster. I mean, it's not looking great. I mean, no team that started 0-2 has ever made the playoffs that split. So I don't have much faith in them this year, but the long run.
Yeah, no. So okay. So there was a couple big takeaways I had from the weekend overall, just for seeing like fluidity and like meshing alone. I mean, to start with 100 Thieves, Hui didn't look like he was having the most stand-up performance. Someday looked really uncomfortable on some of the picks he was on. I think this is a lot of like feeling out and stuff like that. Bang wasn't really like. I mean, his CS numbers were surprisingly low. There was a lot of like meshing stuff that I think is just going to take some cohesion and some time. I mean, it seemed to me like a lot of these off-season changes happened really early, yes, but to actually have like the whole process really like feel itself out and get finalized and get these guys in. Like I just found out today that Irene, like Coach Irene for CLG, had only been there for 3 days. I did not know that.
What?
Like they signed him ages ago, but they actually hadn't had him in like the CLG like facility for ages. So there was I think this is a lot of behind the scenes stuff that teams that have a lot of already talent that is situated in NA that they didn't have to go anywhere. Teams like Optic, teams like I don't know FlyQuest, like these teams who didn't really have to like go that far or have these big like visa issues and stuff like that. Like I mean, Optic's still dealing with visa issues for Arrow, but I mean like their local guys are still really like meshing together really well. And I think that's why you're seeing some of these successes that you're not seeing on these teams who are trying to bring a new talent and work them in. Same thing with PoE. Like PoE didn't get to the CLG house immediately or the CLG facility immediately either, right? So I think once we let this kind of like work out a little better, it's I think we're going to start seeing better performances across the board, which I'm really excited for.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe not next week, but I think that second split, we start seeing some of these teams change a lot, even if they had to keep the same roster, that once some of that meshing kind of comes in, that we'll start seeing some changes and some teams looking a lot better than they did this opening week. That opening week's always kind of rough, and maybe we're saying that because both of our teams did really bad, so we want to be hopeful with that. We want to make excuses for them. But I really do think some teams that are already doing well are going to do better once they fully mesh, and some of the teams that aren't doing well may have a little bit of a resurgence, hopefully, because they have that time. Because making big player changes, especially at key roles, is never going to be easy.
Especially with language barriers too, right? Like that's a big thing for a lot of teams, right? Like I mean, it's great when you have like one or two people speaking the same language that can kind of like translate midway for each other.
Yeah.
But I mean, look for example, look at Clutch Gaming. Clutch Gaming had Piglet, who I mean, debatably when he got here was a very he was a very volatile player one way or another. But look at him now, like the dude's like totally situated, he's totally meshed in, and they look phenomenal, man. They look great. Like I mean, like Hooney kind of hinted a little bit, and I mean like even their coach actually the social media presence across the board I find has been like upped like real high.
Yeah.
Clutch Gaming looked really good. CLG, despite the dumpster fire that was that subreddit, Weldon was super open with the subreddit with videos and stuff like that. So it's good to see that this level of communication is really upping it. I was talking to you a bit on Slack about how good FlyQuest's social media team is. Like I mean, they're like everybody is really stepping up their game, and it's great to see, right? Like the amount of interaction is awesome.
I really feel like across the board, social media has been getting better and better by the month for all of esports. I mean, I think the first time I really noticed it, because it was the first time I followed a lot of teams, was in Overwatch League. But now, ever since then, even with League of Legends, with every single team, they seem to start being kind of understanding what people want out of these esports organizations on social media, the type of content. They're getting more creative. I mean, the LA Valiant just put out like an Office miniseries.
That was great. Yeah.
Introductions. Like people are getting more creative because you have more people coming into these creative roles at esports organizations, and social media is something across the board I've loved starting to see, because it is exactly what I kind of want, at least out of social media for these teams.
And I think a lot of people do too. People want that like creativity, like the memes. Like I mean, seeing this like kind of soft flame amongst teams and stuff like that is really nice too. Like I mean, you want it to be the caliber of the players, because a lot of these players, like they shoot the shit with each other like across the board, and they want to see the organizations do that too, right? Because that's what really that's what kind of sells you on an org too, is like how they communicate, how what the personality of the team is, right?
And that's what sold me on 100 Thieves in the first place. Their personality, what they represented, what they looked like. And I think having social media that's really well and then go more viral outside of the very hardcore esports community is how you get more people to come in and pick these teams. Because their content's like funny, relatable, whatever, kind of like that, and they start to get more interest in the brand, which leads to just kind of more involvement in esports as a whole. So I think that's something really important that we're starting to see more and more with, especially the leagues getting back into it now, and we got so close. Overwatch League, these just started. Like, now you see these teams in full swing because they have content to make all the time now.
Oh, that's just it too, right? Like, I mean, like it's just like the off season really kind of sucks for esports organizations unless they're like they have a bunch of stuff going on across the board. But a lot of teams aren't there yet. There's not a constant flow of like material for them to make stuff off of. So yeah, they've really like upped their game, which is awesome.
But I think we'll kind of put a pin in that for today, because we'll keep talking about it. We'll keep seeing how CLG and 100 Thieves does. Hopefully they have a little bit of comeback later on. But trust me, you guys will hear about it. If a team keeps doing well, it keeps doing bad, because I don't think me and James can really avoid talking about it that much. But
I don't. Yeah, it kind of doesn't stay off our radar that long.
No. But we do have something that we teased at the beginning of the show: our projection for the 2019 Esport of the Year.
Yeah.
Farming Simulator League 2019.
Yeah.
Just let that sink in
man.
for a minute. How does that feel? How does that feel on your tongue when you say it?
It doesn't. It's real mouthy. It's a big mouthful. I don't know. I don't know. It's like a big hunk of corn. Like there's a lot going on there.
So, this has kind of been. I mean, it's a meme. I mean, so it's a very serious league. Like, when I say it's a meme, like, everyone's been talking about it. Everyone's been joking about it in the esports community. But it's getting talked about a lot, and I think it's a good thing. It's an extremely weird thing. Something I never thought that would happen. But
yeah. So like again, like I'm unfortunately I didn't skim over the article that much. I saw it and I've seen it everywhere, but I actually haven't had to done a deep dive into it. But like so I mean I think like it spewed a lot of good conversation. Like, should every esport or should every game be able to be an esport? Should every game should be able to be competitive? And I'm on the fence. I don't really know how I feel about this. Like, I think it's great for that community, and by the sounds of it, the infrastructure they've kind of set up for this league. Hopefully, you can provide a bit more.
Yeah, I got that article pulled up here too.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So yeah, no. Apparently, it's like they've got their stuff together when it comes to like this league. But I don't know, man. I don't know if it's needed. I don't know if it's justified. But then it goes back to like, why does League of Legends need an esports? Need an esport? Like, you know what I mean?
So it's Europe based.
Okay.
It's going to span 10 tournaments across Europe, going into 2020 of summer, where like Giant Software, whatever, they have like their own farm con or whatever like that. That's where it ends in 2020.
Okay.
The prize pool is 250,000 euros, about 280 grand US dollars.
That's $250,000, man. That's not bad at all.
I know. And the crazy part about that is the largest prize pool for any event before that was $3.4 thousand.
Just that's zero. That is the definition of 0 to 100. Like that is it right there.
Yeah, but like, so I mean, it's not the Rainbow Six level of like grassroots, but like they just said that's this one small event over in Europe, and like it was actually a very big hit. It was just a couple $1,000s. People came. Like there's a picture of this little area just being crowded at a farming convention of people watching this, and that the people playing the game started kind of organizing it and starting it from the ground, and they were the ones that kind of pushed, and then Giant realized that they kind of had something special, and they started kind of going after what the community wanted.
Where's Dylan when you need him? Because this is what gets him hype. Is like this, because that is grassroots. Like there's nothing more than that. Like that is a bunch of players making something happen, and then the developer being like, they care, no, we should care. Yeah. Let's all care, and let's make this into something great. And here we are. And it's definitely one of the most talked about things so far of 2019. I think this beats rebranding of the LCS and the LEC. Like this is hype, man.
So, talking a little bit about how the games are played. They used to be played as bale stacking, and whoever had the most bale stacked is who won.
Okay.
But they feel like they need to change it up, and now they're creating a unique multiplayer 3v3 experience that the game has not yet seen before for the competitive league.
Okay, all right.
And the tournaments will be played at events such as Paris Games Week and Gamescom in Germany. Two of the biggest like European gaming conventions are going to have tournaments there. And the culminating thing is $113,000 tournament is the finals. Whoever wins that goes home $113,000 richer.
I got no words for this, man. I'm rattled. This is so well put together.
They have Logitech and Intel both sponsoring the league, and then a bunch of other like chairs, like Noble chairs, Nitrado. Nenever heard of them.
Not too sure.
I'm sure a couple of farming based
of course
sponsors are doing it. But
is John Deere or any like big like farming names getting behind this?
I think it's only a matter of time, though.
I think it is too. I feel like this is going to be something they move in on and be like, yeah, well, you can get behind this. Why wouldn't we support this?
So I think we've both been like struggling to keep it together as we're talking through this topic, but like I actually really do think this is a good thing, because you cannot tell me that the average person that plays a farming simulator game watches esports. I can bet you that it is an extreme minority of that crossover there.
You're probably right. I'll give you that. I think it's the same demographic as like Sims players.
Yeah.
Like it's that simulation. Like it's not like competitive, I guess. And I think that's why I'm kind of seeing the transition over. But by the sounds of it, they've thought that through. They've thought through, how do we make this competitive? How do we make this exciting and interesting? But I mean, like clearly it's already exciting if it already has this much of a buzz. But I mean, I think there is like a bit of a finesse to like make this really into something special. I think they're kind of nailing it, at least in the early stages. At least for obviously, I don't know. We could see these events and they could be a bust. But by the sounds of it, they've gained enough traffic and they're not going to be. So, but yeah, no. I think for esports as a whole, this is a nice gap. They just bridged the gap. They did it.
Yeah.
Right. So we're gonna see. Go ahead.
I'm just almost at a loss for words of kind of how I feel about this. I can't be mad about this. I mean, $250,000 prize. So no matter what the esports, that's a really nice prize. First off,
Yeah, oh yeah,
over
definitely.
10 tournaments. So yeah, it breaks down to smaller prize pools here and there, but the grand finals is pretty big, and unfortunately no major teams have signed up for it yet. Who knows, we may soon have a Fnatic farming simulator
I
team.
was actually I wanted to ask you if there was like any like big names that were like investing in a team already.
The
But
article said that there are several semi-professional teams that have expressed interest, but the article didn't mention if any big teams have signed yet. Trust me, we will talk about it if they do. I mean, if a
yeah.
Fnatic, if a G2, if an organized Origin, any organization like that gets in on this, like,
Yeah, and like I mean, there is like and like the big name that's coming to my mind is like Astros that they make it behind that too. I mean, I understand that them and Origin are like kind of like a pairing, but like I mean, I don't know, man. I think a lot of those orgs over there that have been around for a while are gonna see this and be like, all right, we'll jump in. We'll get our feet wet.
I
Let's
mean,
move.
why not?
Why not, right? I don't know. I mean, in like the big thing I'm worried about is that we're gonna see a huge influx from like these organizations who are bigger, and then they're all going to pull out. We saw this recently with Rainbow Six, with Cloud9. Cloud9 just sold their entire team off to Reciprocity, and like in the past, CLG has done the same thing too, where they kind of ditched their entire roster for Rainbow, right? Because they didn't think it was going to be profitable.
Yeah.
Now, and like I mean, they're probably looking long term. I hope that the farm simulator esports. I don't. We got to find a better name for it. It kind of like makes themselves like projected enough that they're going to continue to grow, no pun intended, and just keep going and going from there. So yeah, no, I want to see some big names behind it. But I mean, Logitech and Intel, I'll take it. I'll take it for now.
That's decent sponsors. And I guess
Yeah,
we don't have much else to say, so yee, ride them up, Cowboys. Keep stacking those bales, and good luck to anyone participating in the Farming Simulator League for 2019-2020.
Yeah, all of that.
Whew. Okay, I feel like now that I was somewhat serious about that, I feel like I can regroup and actually kind of get back into real esports, because this next topic we're talking about is going to be a little bit more of a heavy one. I mean, I'm not saying heavy, but it is an organization tackling something that's been an issue for a while now, and that's North. So,
Yeah,
the organization name was just...
It started with North. It started with
Yeah,
North.
it's North, and it's been growing from there. But
Yeah.
North, this always sounds weird to talk about as an organization. But North, for those of you
Yes.
that don't know, they're in the LCS. I don't know how much bigger they're CS:GO as well. I guess I don't know what extent they're all involved in.
North's not in the LCS. North's not.
Oh,
They don't have
I'm
any.
sorry.
No. Unless they're paired up with either Rogue or Excel, they're not. They're not a part of it. They were projected to be a part of it.
Okay,
But
that's where it is. They were projected to.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but they actually. But so CS:GO is their big thing.
Okay, so CS:GO is, and I guess I feel like you know a little bit more about this. I mean, if you kind of want to talk about what, I mean, it's grown bigger than them. They pretty much put out a statement. I can pull it up later on when we're talking about that, but pretty much saying that like, well, they're getting a lot of shit from some bad performance they had in their CS:GO, and a lot of people being toxic, kind of like how the CLG forums were, and how you're talking about that. These people coming after the organization, the team, doing these threats, just insulting people, and they're like, we're better than this. We want to stop that. So
Yeah.
the big thing that I would have made me stand out, and I'm like, I want to talk about this, is they're actually putting it on their jerseys. And they're taking steps beyond that too, and they're just encouraging and they're just trying to promote that idea that we're better than this. This is how esports always has been, but it doesn't need to be how it needs to be forever. And they want us to be that start to make that change happen and kind of get rid of the toxicity, which we've talked about countless times on stream before.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like it's a reoccurring theme, and I think it's like, I mean, it's a big thing with like, I mean, it almost seems like toxicity is supposed to be a part of the culture. It's supposed to be about the culture of esports. But North, thank God for the like, God love them. They basically they put out their master post basically detailing that this is like we've received like death threats, we've received all this stuff about our players and stuff like that, and this needs to stop. This needs to stop. And I don't know. I know shooters seem to have a bit more worse rap than other teams,
Yep.
like other leagues. CS:GO. I've recently learned that Gears of War actually has a very, very toxic player
Well,
base.
they're all Xbox players, so of course they're all toxic.
I mean, not to generalize anybody, but no, I've actually briefly interacted with an ex-pro who said that like the Gears of War player base is like they're insane. Like the stuff that some of the CS:GO players in the LEC or like the League of Legends players, the stuff they say to them, that's tame. That's tame. Now, a big thing to remember too is this is amongst players. This isn't fans to players. From my knowledge, I don't know if it gets any worse than that.
Yeah.
But the nice part about what North did is North basically started this movement and everybody immediately jumped on ship. There was almost no hesitation. I seen Rogue, I seen Fnatic, I seen G2, like I seen tons of organizations immediately be like backing up North and just getting behind this.
I mean, we can't forget X Hamster as well.
God love them. God love. I don't care that what. I don't care that they're a porn website. I don't care. They were behind it. They supported it. Slasher was having a fit because he didn't know what to do. But yeah, no, like even they're just like this isn't good, guys. This isn't good at all. But yeah, like I think like this is a really good thing to talk about because this is something that personally that it irked me heavily over the weekend because I was losing my mind dealing with the CLG subreddit. Yeah. Because like that's what you're seeing. It's not nearly as bad as sending death threats and stuff like that, but fans are volatile. Anonymity? Help me out. Word that makes you anonymous. What is that word?
Anonymous is not the word.
There's a word I'm looking for. Anyways, the ability to not have anything personal tied to a screen name makes you want to say the most vile things because there's going to be no. Anonymity. Yeah, I think that's what I'm looking for. Thank you, Kate. I think I still butchered the pronunciation, but yeah, it lets you get away with this. You're gonna get a ban, but it doesn't change that the words went up and stuff like that. And like you see some really really messed up stuff, man. Like you gotta remember these guys these are younger dudes. Like a lot of these guys,
pretty much 16 to 22.
And that's just it. And not only that, but like. The women's leagues too. The amount of stuff I've seen like land basing CLG Red is unbelievable, and I can't to me to wrap my head around that. Like these are supposed to be fans, and all they do is just rip on their own work. And this is I'm using CLG as an example because it's something I know. But this is I know this is across the board. I've heard good things about 100 Thieves team fan base. I guess they're pretty chill, but I mean. All these long-standing orgs have their fan bases are absolutely ruthless. I feel bad for TSM players, man. I'm surprised Bjergsen hasn't gone on stress leave because of how these fan bases react. Like I had to start trying to tell people off in the subreddits, trying to make people listen, guys. You are ripping on a team that just lost to a Worlds team who has players that have are regional champions multiple times, and you expect these guys to be phenoms, and that you're ripping them to shreds top to bottom because they didn't perform, and that to me is mind blowing. Now it's nice to see that CLG actually just joined the National Alliance on Mental Health, which is really good. I'm sure other orgs are going to kind of be doing the same. I'm not too sure who else is a part of that, but guys like CLG is doing a good job. Like you said, North's doing a good job putting on their jersey. We need more of this because banter is one thing, right? Talks is absolutely unnecessary, right? We gotta it needs to go, man. It needs to be abolished.
There's no doubt in my mind that this is nothing but good. This promotion, all these teams coming together and doing it. But in the post they put out, the way they said we're going to be the change we want to see by being the change, and how they're doing that is removing negative comments when possible, blocking people when they can, and reporting. I mean, that almost acts see no evil, do no evil.
I know,
they're just saying that if they just get rid of all these negative people in the community, everything's going to be good and hunky-dory, and I feel like there's a complaint with that. Especially when you start blocking people or reporting people, that's when some trolls get more aggressive almost, because that's their interaction. They got that, we pissed them off so much, we got blocked, let's keep going at them. Especially with Twitch streamers, you see a lot. You ban one account, they just keep making them over and over again to keep bothering them. And I feel like, I'm not saying there's going to be a backlash, but just ignoring everything isn't the best way. I don't know what other way to fix it. I mean, you're going to encourage that, and if you want to be a part of the community, you have to be nice. You can't be rude or you're going to get kicked out. But that's just it's a selective group of all yes sayers almost.
I know, yeah, and this is the problem. And I think this is the big problem with trying to create a community that isn't toxic. It's a very, very difficult thing to tackle because, well, like, how do you deal with somebody on the internet who you have really no physical control over, like, what they say and what they do, and, like, how many times they recreate their Reddit account because they want to go and, like, bash a team, or recreate their Twitch account. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you can make an infinite amount of emails. The big, I can't think of a good way to fix it. Like, I can't, like, I know Intero from one of the casters from Six did a really good, like, long video on this too, on, like, it needs like, you need other people, like, just basically either, like, acknowledging that it's happening and, like basically telling the person not to do it, and, like, trying to build that fan base of people who not only, like, don't do it but also don't tolerate it either. Like, it needs to be something that when you do it, you don't get a reaction, you don't get anything, you don't, like, because, like, it goes up and nobody reacts, nobody gets pissed off. In fact, you're getting scolded by the player base, or, like, by the fan base, stuff like that. Like, that's kind of what you need to do. I mean, even that as an atmosphere is hard to create. And then the other thing is, like, you need to make things harder for these people to do it, because then they get deterred and then they stop. And, like, I mean, again, like, banning people, like, blocking people, deleting comments, like, it's a stop fix. Like, it's not anything. You're not fixing the problem in, like, forever, right? So, like, I mean, I don't want to say make examples of people, but make examples of these accounts that are doing this stuff and being like, listen, like, this, like, I don't know, like, kind of what, like, okay, look at what League of Legends did with Tyler 1. They banned literally everything. They made it impossible for him to come back unless he changed, and then he did, and now look at him. He literally sells stuff that sells Reformed. If you need to kind of try to find that extreme in some of these cases with some of these very, very toxic or, like, I don't even want to call them fan bases because they're not. They're trolls. They're like, I could go on a tangent and start getting real aggressive about what I think of these people, but I'm not. But there needs to be extreme ramifications to kind of stop this. Not to the point where you're, the organization's calling these people out and calling them names and stuff like that. But you need to make extreme adjustments, like banning IPs and stuff like that. I mean, then they go to VPNs, but then that starts getting sketchy because then you might be subjected to malware, and for a lot of people, that's too much effort. That's way too much, and then it kind of stops. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Like, North kind of making this point of just kind of, like, getting rid of it and not really addressing it. It's not good long term.
Yeah, I was just kind of being devil's advocate there. Like, I think this is an amazing thing. I don't think there's a better place to start than saying, like, okay, we want to start being this change. We want to lead this charge. They put that stop toxicity. They start making those efforts. Like, I'm not taking away what they're doing isn't good, but it's such a deep-rooted issue, not just in esports, but online culture. I mean, there's studies on this. There's all that kind of stuff. Like, it is just a phenomenon on the internet that people, when they feel like they're anonymous, they're going to say incredibly rude things with very little repercussions on their end, and they will keep doing it.
That's just it. There really isn't any.
So it is really working with the community, starting from the ground up and trying just to build a better community, which is going to be hard. It's going to take such a long time, and everyone needs to be really committed. But I love that at least someone is starting this stand, saying, okay, we're done with this. We're not putting up with it anymore. And that will spread other teams, and you hope it just makes esports a better place as a whole. You never get rid of that base, but if you can make it more focused on the people that are good, accepting constructive criticism, than the people that are just attacking these game developers, these players, these teams, it gets better for everyone, and it's a more enjoyable experience all around.
And I think it's something that I think we kind of, like, overlook too. Is, like, people not only go after teams, they go after game developers too.
Oh yeah, I couldn't imagine making a game.
Oh no, me either. Because, like, I mean, look at Riot, man. Like, look at Riot alone. Like, I mean, Blizzard's another one. Like, Valve. Like, I mean, all these like major organizations just get constantly torn down. And the big thing is too, is it's an organization, not specific players. They're not attacking, like, specific people most of the time. You do get people who go after, like, Buddy, who did, like, the Diablo Immortal announcement, stuff like that, right? Like, I mean, you get attacked on the specific people, but most of the time it's Riot or Valve. Like, it's like these big organizations, but it's still it's still not good, man. It's still like it's so hard to break the mold on this stuff, right? But I don't know, man. It needs to happen at some point.
It's a start. I think
Yeah.
I think that's the best place to end it. That this is
Good job,
not
North.
the one solution, but it's a start, and we hope that it starts continuing on, and we just go from there.
That's just it, right? So I mean, yeah, North, good job, guys. Good way to start us off.
Yeah. But with that, we'll go to our little pre-show. I mean, mid-show, shill,
Mid-show.
whatever advertisement, whatever you kind of want to call it. We're sponsored by ourselves. Technically, the Game House, whatever you want to say. But if you have Twitch Prime, you have Amazon. No, if you have Amazon Prime, you have Twitch Prime. Whichever way it is, you have it, and take that money from Amazon. Because each and every month, you get one free Twitch Prime subscription that does not continue over to the next month. But it allows you to give it to small creators such as us at the Game House, any other one you want. Just support someone because you only get it once. It's 100% free if you have that Amazon Prime account connected, and it helps any small content creator. So we always love, and it means so much to us if you did for us, but just do it for someone because it will make someone's day. So make sure to use the Twitch Prime each and every month because it does not automatically reactivate, resub, whatever it is. Yeah. But make sure to use it each and every month.
Yeah, that's a big thing too, guys. Like we don't I mean, support us, sure, but support somebody. For the love of God. Take that money from Amazon.
Yeah. So one of my predictions
One of yours.
for this year was going to be that the NCAA is going to get involved in esports and fail. And they've made their first statement of the year already, which may not look well for my prediction, but it does look well for the prediction that they're going to fail eventually.
Yeah, I know.
The comment they pretty much came out to say, there's a whole long article. We'll tweet about it. We're going to start including the descriptions and stuff like that. But the ultimate goal, the ultimate summary of what they said is that we are not going to approve of any violent games in esports, and we will not adjust our morals, our standards, our whatever that word is. We're not going to change for esports. So what I hear that being is that, number one, they don't want to get involved in esports because they know how big of a trouble it's going to be with all the people at Twitch stream and all the money that people are making at young ages, and they don't want to make that change or exception for esports because then it's just a floodgates for everything else. I think the not getting involved in violent esports is just the excuse of not wanting that second part is how I perceive this. Because when they include that we will not change who we are for esports is pretty much what they're saying, it makes me think is they don't want to open up the floodgates because it is a Pandora's box if you get into esports, because you have to allow these players to Twitch stream. You have to allow them to play in these tournaments if you want them to be involved in the esports at the NCAA level. There's no way around it, and you've already set precedent where you do not allow a collegiate football player in 2017 to have a YouTube channel that had nothing to do with football make money because you're saying that you're using the fame from college football to boost that YouTube channel. So you already set that precedent that you cannot make money from anything, even if it's now related to what you're doing.
Yeah, to me that's just it's a massive cop-out. It's a cop-out. It's such a smoke and mirrors thing, being like, I mean, this is why we're doing it. But, in reality, and, I think a lot of people, anybody involved in the esports community and who has paid attention to the NCAA at all, know that it is all down to the mighty dollar with these guys. And they do not want to they don't want to create this, this chance for somebody to be able to fight them on other stuff. Because you're right, 100%, guys need it, how do they promote these, how do guys promote themselves? Sorry, is dude, it's through Twitch streams, it's through tournaments. That's how these guys get big. And if the NCAA needs to start allowing for this stuff to happen, oh my god, it's going to be a nightmare for them. When it comes to traditional sports and stuff like that, and it's not going to work out for them. So I really do think I don't think it's, even if they try, what are they going to get into? Farming simulator,
Rocket League,
Rocket League. I can see Rocket League, maybe the 2K League. But I'm
2K, Madden, Rocket League would probably be. I'm kind of looking through the article right now, seeing what they're saying. Yeah, Counter-Strike, Dota, League of Legends, Overwatch. I mean, the top tier esports. You don't want to get
some of the biggest floor. Yeah, exactly. Right, man. That's crazy. You can't support a big. Oh, Stardew Valley League. I'd watch that. I'd watch that.
Please, I love Stardew Valley. I want to buy it on PC so we can play together. Sorry, off topic. Go on.
But yeah, no, it limits their range of them being able to do, like, let's face it, the NCAA just wants to make money.
Yeah.
They just want to make money, and the only way you make money, significant amount of money, not like pennies. Well, I shouldn't say pennies because I don't want to discredit the smaller leagues, the smaller esports. I don't want to do that because they do have validity where they're at. They're growing all this good stuff. The problem is the NCAA doesn't care about growing. They want to be established like immediately, so they want to get into the big stuff. The only problem is the big stuff is all violent, or violent-ish. Like, I don't know, man. Overwatch to me isn't that violent. It's pretty cartoony. Like, it rivals like Looney Tunes and Bugs Bunny. Like, it's. I mean,
Yikes.
even CS:GO isn't even that violent. Yes, people are shooting each other, but there's no gore. It's not Gears of War. Like, I mean, like, it's not that crazy. So yeah, to me, this is such a cop out for them. That's what.
Yeah, and I looked through more of the article, and like the president of like the NCAA was even saying, like, the one way that they do get into it and they do get around this box and it'll piss off so many people is they're asking questions like, yes, esports is a global phenomenon, like it's already in so many colleges, but the questions we need to start asking is are they athletes?
Is they?
And he said that there. And if they go in and declassify it as, it's not a sport technically, which, like, that is what is the one way to do, because they're not sports, so they're not athletes, so they're allowed to make money would be the one way they do it. But then organizing tournaments and all that kind of stuff, like, there would be, I don't think there's a way NCAA can get involved in esports without opening up that barrier that stops players from making money. I don't think there's any way to do it, and that's why I do not think it'll happen anytime soon, if ever. But I make that prediction this year, and this is kind of what I was expecting, that they were going to try to make a push, but then they're going to force everyone not to make money because they wouldn't change their values, and then they just drop out and become irrelevant because of that. But now they're kind of being hesitant because they're at least aware that, like, yeah, we're not going to change. So, like, we might not get involved because of that.
Yeah, I think I don't want to say this kills them entirely getting into it, but it definitely puts like a big roadblock in front of them. I mean, even if they do go that route of like they're not athletes, so they can make money, but we're still gonna take it all from them.
I don't think other sports would. I think that would make that conversation bigger.
Yeah,
and that would
I agree.
Just piss off people in every community.
One question I want to ask you, and I'm going to leave it open for anybody listening as well, to kind of think about is, like, do we think the developers would let NCAA get in there as well? Given the history, you think they wouldn't hesitate? Did you just let them right in?
If the NCAA went to riot and said, we want every single college in the United States to have a League of Legends team, there's no way riot would say no.
That's
true. If the NCAA comes in and say, we want to make your game an official esports, we'll pay you for the public, we'll pay you for rights, because obviously we'll need to do that. You will be a major sponsor, you will have your name all over everything as well, and thousands and thousands of college students every single year will be a part of this. There's no way, if the NCAA does it right, that publishers will say no, because publishers have nothing to lose. Publishers want to make money too.
Yeah, good point.
They don't need to worry about that lower level, because now the NCAA is involved in the path to pro and that kind of stuff. I mean, you almost turn the path to pro. I mean, not really, because college players only, and there's people that aren't in college that play in that, but you have that development league already, and, like, why would someone now want to have someone else deal with the entire your development league and then pay you money and get you free advertising?
That's true, but I think at the same time, where you call it the development league, a lot of times, I doubt, this doesn't change the fact that I think you're probably 100% right. I think the NCAA would just take over for these development leagues. But again, if it goes back to that conversation of, like, if you play in these leagues that are part of your school and stuff like that, you basically shoot yourself in the foot for ever playing pro, because by that time you're aged out. You know what I mean? But again, this is a very small margin of players. Why would you ever, the small margin does not outweigh the many. It doesn't happen. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like some players would be hesitant, but most of the time, anybody's going to jump on ship because it's like, hey, I play for Duke. I play for Duke's esports team. You know what I mean?
And if anything, I'd see it being kind of more like how hockey is. So I don't know how well you kind of know that system is, but, like, people usually go to high school if they play hockey there, And then they have the choice of, if they're really, really good, they'll go straight to college. Otherwise, they go to like a semi-pro league, which we can kind of see as like open division, contender, something like that. And then they go back to college for usually a year or two if they're kind of on that bubble, and then they go get brought up to the league. So I think there could be a place for collegiate esports. That like, okay, like you're one of the top tier players in open division and contender. A team's going to give you sponsorship. You'll be there for maybe a season, and then you get brought up to the next level. So there's somewhere it can fit in there. And again, I don't want to say yes, I'm right with my own prediction, but there's no way that any publisher will be able to turn down that much money for publicity, and that's the only way. But these publishers having it would be such an interesting conversation to sit in on. Because both sides are going to have so many contingencies and rules of how things are done that it would be such a legal battle between both of these. But they both want it because it helps both sides. But the contingencies on that deal would probably be the most interesting conversation I'd ever be part of in my life.
Absolutely. Now, I want to make one side note just to back it up a little bit. Chat, our listeners, I want you to realize that Andrew just asked the token Canadian on the show if I know anything about hockey. I want you to let that sink in. I want you to let that digest. That he asked me, the country that makes it like our it's basically our national sport. I understand we have lacrosse, but it's hockey. Yeah, lacrosse is our national sport. Yeah,
you play lacrosse? I knew that. That's about all.
No, I played football. Nice try. No. But yeah, and for the record, I do know something about hockey. I go to the Mooseheads games. I support the boys. I'm Canadian. That's how it works. I have a beard.
Keep telling yourself that. It's okay.
Oh, whatever, man. Whatever. Let's move on from this.
Yeah, and I agree. Now we'll see more development. They made a comment on it, which means there's going to be more comments on the future. So we'll keep developing that as it goes on. So the last thing I kind of want to talk about, it isn't esports related specifically.
Yeah.
But it's just the video game industry as a whole, and I love that. I got into video games obviously very heavily before I got into esports, and I've always been a big video game guy. But so the video game industry in 2018 went about $43 billion as an industry as a whole, which is an 18% increase from 2017. It's a pretty big jump.
Looking all right.
That's not bad. $43 billion as an industry. Pretty okay. And that includes mobile, that includes everything kind of like that. Yeah. But like we saw what... So what I'm going to be talking about now is I go and check out the NPR numbers on all this kind of stuff. They do a lot of really NPD numbers.
NPD.
They do a lot of really good stuff, and I can't remember what his name is. I'll retweet it on the Prodigy Esports account, and you can kind of see some of the facts. But they just did a big thing. But what I found most interesting, kind of what it relates most to us too, is that a lot of this growth is being directly related to Fortnite, which I don't think is crazy for anyone to believe. But
I don't think so either.
The biggest jump in video games accessories in like the last decade happened this year. They boosted by 18% this last year because they assumed with so many people playing Fortnite needing headsets and needing more controllers and all that kind of stuff, and that
peripherals,
and all that kind of stuff, and accessories and all that kind of stuff can be directly related through their research to Fortnite because of how big a phenomenon it is and all that kind of stuff. And that's the biggest thing that they associate with Fortnite. The rest of that jump is in mobile gaming and all that kind of stuff is becoming more and more popular. And actually console sales and PC sales are staying about the same. Digital is rising, of course, but mobile is the biggest overall boost in the numbers, and then in terms of accessories was directly related to Fortnite, which I love seeing that one game isn't doing that entire 18%, but a lot of that 18% was associated to one game, which is ridiculous to me.
Yeah, no, like looking at the breakdown too, it's like pretty crazy because I mean you expect software, like including like in-game purchases and subscription, you expect that to be a significant amount, but for like to see peripherals be like a 15% jump on its own is pretty ridiculous. And like if we can thank Fortnite for that, I can thank Fortnite for that. I can happily say that. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm as somebody who's not a big like Fortnite fan or like, kind of some of the culture it breeds. I appreciate what it's doing for esports and video games as a whole.
And another big thing that they kind of brought up was the number of loot boxes and DLC and all that kind of stuff. And we saw people being upset with that kind of 2017, 2016, like the whole EA fiasco with Battlefield
Yeah.
2 and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's getting a little better now, but that almost became a problem. But obviously, that is working. People are buying these extra cosmetics and skins
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff. People are buying, and that is good for the video game industry because it just gives more money for everyone to make these better games and all that kind of stuff. And I know no one likes loot boxes, but I think it may be an unpopular take. But if loot boxes are done well, I have zero issue with them.
So
I've never had an
go ahead.
issue with a game that didn't force them on you, like Battlefield 2. I don't care if there's, as long as it's not multiplayer, as long as it's not pay to win, I don't
Yeah.
care as many loot boxes as you want on the game.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say that. Like, I think both Overwatch and League of Legends both do like similar models where you have the chance of like getting one.
Even
at the end of
Fortnite's the
game.
same kind of way too with their
Yeah,
model. It's all cosmetics.
Yeah, exactly, and it's the same thing with like Rainbow Six too.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys do this right, where it's an option, it's purely cosmetic, and that's it. It does not alter gameplay, and you get them like naturally on their own, anyways. But you can just have the option to buy way more. Now that being said, I know Riot's come under a bit of fire with the prestige skins and stuff like that, in the breakdown of like, you know, these prestige tokens that you can only get through like masterwork boxes that you can only really buy unless you convert them from gemstones. And there's like this big dynamic. Somebody actually did like a psychological breakdown of it and stuff like that. But I mean, these are very pocket cases. I understand that Riot is a very big developer and stuff like that, so it isn't the best, but it is one cosmetic skin. It's one or two, and like, I mean, if people, I think a lot of people are like, I don't want to use the term woke, but I think the term is applicable here. Woke to the idea that loot boxes are like, they're an addictive thing, and they're not game altering, they're not gameplay altering, they're just there as an accessory.
Yeah,
On Battlefield.
I mean, as long as the video games industry growing, I really, it sounds bad, but as long as it's growing healthily and it's not becoming incredibly toxic or money hungry or anything like that, I don't care what it does. I just want to see it growing because that allows us to see more things and more money in the pockets of people that deserve it. These developers, these players. I mean, it all funnels down to esports too. The bigger that video game industry is, the more people involved in that, the better chance they have of hearing esports. The more people are at Blizzard are getting paid, which means the more money the Overwatch League is getting, and blah blah. It's just all funnels down from the top, and that's why if Fortnite's selling more cosmetic, gets more people into video games, which ultimately helps everyone else, that's good for me, and that's kind of how I see it, and that's why I want to bring it up, is that for every $1 billion that video game industry grows, a small portion of that goes to esports, and that's what I think is the most relevant thing to us, is that video game industry is, if that dies, esports dies too.
Yeah, that's just it. I'm glad we're kind of bringing that up, because we need to recognize that, like, yes, you can like shit on developers. Yes, you can shit on like these organizations that are making these games and stuff like that. Which again, we don't condone. We just went on a tangent about it. Like, you need to realize that without them, we don't exist. Esports doesn't exist. It's not a thing anymore. We're gone. We're a thing of the past. So, I mean, play single player games by all means. Like, I mean, because it all generates into us, right? It all generates into esports.
Absolutely.
There we go.
But I guess we don't have any honorable mentions today. Is there anything else you wanted to go back and touch on from any of the topics we brought up? Anything you want to mention offhand that we kind of forgot to put in the show notes?
Nothing that I really forgot in the show notes. I do have two kind of things though.
Okay.
One, and I'm like, I feel bad because I keep going back to it, but this was a really big weekend for me as a CLG fan, and I feel like I need to kind of give them credit. I want to really give a big shout out to Weldon Green, the coach for CLG, the head coach. I've yet, like, in the time that I've been involved in esports, I haven't seen a head coach tackle his fan base like he is, and he's doing a really good job of posting on, not only he's posting on the subreddit, he's making interviews that are very open, very transparent, very open with the fans, and I gotta commend that dude. I gotta give him full shout out. Good stuff. It's great to see. It's very refreshing. Two, I'm gonna give a shout out to Matcom again. I think he's still kicking around. If he is, that's awesome. But dude, thanks for stopping by. I really appreciate it. And the final thing is League of Legends esports insignias are now out, like the icons. Proceeds do go to the teams, guys. So if you do have a team that you want to support in some regard or another, pick up their icon. I think I already planned on picking up like 4 because I want to see these teams, like, do well and stuff like that. TL has enough money though. Don't give them anything.
Paid by Steve.
Paid by Steve.
But I guess with that, thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode of Project Esports. I don't know what day it is, so it's the last episode of January, is what I've been calling it instead. But really, we did enjoy all of you guys being in chat, and as always, we love doing this for you. So thank you so much for tuning in.
Yeah, so for the record, it is the 28th of January, Andrew, just so you need to know. Any interaction with us, guys, any listens, any likes on Twitter, any favorites, all that good stuff, we appreciate the hell out of it. Means a ton to us. Any growth that we get is awesome. Thanks for staying with us. Thanks for sticking by.
And every single episode that we live stream on Twitch goes live on podcasting platforms Tuesday morning. So right after this, I'll be working on all that, getting it ready for any of you that want to listen to it audibly. It is always there on every single platform: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, anything you listen to, we're on it. And then always goes live Tuesday afternoon, sometime around there, on YouTube as well if you want to watch it, but it's not on Twitch. So however you do watch it, thank you so much for that. But with all of that, thank you very much for tuning in to the Project Esports podcast. And I am Andrew.
I'm James. Thanks for listening, guys.
And I will see you guys next week. Do not think you can take that from me.